Ladies and gentlemen, thank you and welcome to today's council meeting on at 6 p.m. today, the 30th of May 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, clause 23 of the governance rules provides the following: that this public meeting is being recorded to improve access to the meeting for our community. The recording will be published and will be retained by council, can also be live streamed as we talk now, in accordance with council's legal obligation, and as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. Could you please stand for the acknowledgement and opening prayer? I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we are meeting, pay our respect to their elders past, present and emerging, and any other elders of communities who may be with us today. I'd also like to acknowledge you sit on the back of the and the opening prayer is: Almighty God, we humbly ask Thee to bless and guide this council in its deliberations, so that we may truly preserve the welfare of the people whom we serve. Amen. Please be seated. Thank you everybody in the public gallery for being here. I'd like to welcome back Councillor Fitzpatrick, which I'll get Councillor Fitzpatrick to say a few words shortly in council reports. We should get through this meeting fairly quickly, so we will go straight into number 9.1, which is response to petitions on the... Sorry, we missed the minutes. I always do that. The previous minutes. We'll go to number 7, the confirmation of the previous minutes. Can I please have someone move the confirmation of the minutes? Councillor Fuller, thank you. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Irene. Councillor Grant. Any discussion on the minutes there? All okay? I'll put the minutes to the vote. All those in favour of accepting that? And the recommendation is to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting. There is no conflict of interest in anything in today's meeting. I'll move straight to 9.1, which is the reception of petitions, and this is a response to petition, the reduction of speed in Henley Ridge Estate, and I'll throw over to Director Goonan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the response to the petition was for a joint letter containing 34 signatures from Richard Morgan that was received by council at the 2 months ago council meeting. The petition was requesting a speed limit reduction from 100 kilometres an hour to 60 kilometres an hour in the Markwood area. The main reasons for this were narrow roads, school children, and a quite busy local area, including walking and frequent cyclists. Council officers have completed an evaluation of the speed zone using the Austroads Infrastructure Risk Management Rating. This risk assessment and methodology uses a number of different calculations, including land use, road scenarios, lane widths, horizontal alignments, roadside hazards, etc. The recommendation from this is that council work with Vic Roads, RRV, Regional Roads Victoria, to seek approval to reduce the speed limit in the Yarramby-Illawong roads to 60 kilometres per hour.
Thank you, Director Goonan. Can Councillor Russell to move that recommendation? Can I have a second to Councillor Fuller? Anyone for any questions from the gallery in relation to this matter? No? Councillor Russell, did you want to talk on this matter?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope that this Regional Roads agree with this, because in my opinion it's just not safe to do more than 60 k's anyway, so thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Any other councillor like to talk on the recommendation? I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And that recommendation is carried. So we'll move on to presentation of reports, and firstly, got 3 councillor reports. I'll just do the first one. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's great sorrow today, and with great regret, that I announce the passing of one of Wangaratta's former mayors, Mr. Lance Bullis. Lance was a councillor for many years in the 80s, and also was our mayor from 1983 to 1985. And I'd just like to pass on my sympathies, and on behalf of the council here in the rural city of Wangaratta, our sympathies to go to his wife, Patty Bullis, and also to his family. So thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I now hand over to Councillor Ashley Fitzpatrick.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Is Tony? First feedback. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank everyone for their congratulations of myself and my partner had our little boy this month, Parker, and we've had fantastic community support. So I just want to say thank you to the community and also share my appreciation to the midwives and North East Health. They're absolutely fantastic in the midwife community group practice. We're very lucky in our community to have such a great service. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of myself and the community for the service you provide for all of our pregnant women out there and their families. So thank you, and thank you to the community. It's great to be back.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillor Jack Harry, have you got a council report, please?
Thank you, Mary. Yes, I do, and I'll just echo Councillor Fitzpatrick's sentiments of having used that service for maternal child health. It's fantastic, and we're very lucky to have it. So, as for my report, tonight's council meeting falls in the middle of Reconciliation Week this year, bang in the middle. 27th of May, the start of Reconciliation Week, to mark the 1967 referendum, which led to the first people of this land actually being counted, part of the population for constitutional purposes. I digress a little bit, but that's only 56 years ago, which is not a great deal of time. Many of us wouldn't have been around then, but some of us might have been around at the time, and you know, I put it to you, if you consider those years prior to that date, not being counted, part of the nation, it's a significant thing. 3rd of June to mark the Mabo decision and recognition of native title. Further, National Sorry Day, held on 26th of May, commemorates the Bringing Them Home report, a report of truth-telling about a dark period in our nation's history, illuminating the experience of the stolen generations, laying bare the intergenerational trauma that resulted, trauma which reverberates to this day still and manifests in ongoing trial and tribulation. As we reflect in the middle of a week so laden in recognition of momentous historic steps, but steps nonetheless in a much longer journey, I think it would be remiss to not acknowledge the next momentous step immediately ahead of us. I of course speak of the national referendum on an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice, which will occur late this year. Consider the prompt for this year's Reconciliation Week, which reads, "Be a voice for generations." The worst outcome, in my opinion, the worst outcome for the referendum would be if it were not discussed enough, where we do not take the time to engage in good faith efforts to consider the proposal along with the facts and talk about it, and talk about what it might mean for us as a community, but also us as a community that's part of a greater nation. Personally, I would like to see this council continue to explore its relationship and approach to what will undoubtedly be a nation-defining moment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Herrick. We'll move on further down to officers' reports. We'll go to executive services, and I'll hand over 12.1, which is rescheduling the council meeting, to CEO Brendan McGrath.
Thank you, Mayor Rees. This report proposes a change of scheduled meeting dates from what was Tuesday the 27th of June for the June meeting to Thursday the 22nd of June, and that's to accommodate some other conflicting appointments around the original proposed date.
Thank you, CEO McGrath. Can I have a mover of that recommendation? Councillor Fuller, thank you, and Councillor Herry to second that. If there's no discussion on that one, Councillor Fuller, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just noting the time of it as well, and it's an important change in terms of that opportunity for new people to come along to meetings or to dial in and watch it on the live stream earlier in the afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Ford. That time was 2 p.m. Is that correct? Yes. Great one. There's no further comments. I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour of the change? And the recommendation is carried. Thank you. We'll move on to community infrastructure, and I'll look to Director Goonan again at 14.1, which is the contract C39254 Aging Community Care Property Maintenance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is presented to Council to award a panel of contractors for property maintenance services in our aged and community care space. The types of services provided are minor maintenance, lawn mowing, rubbish removal, minor modifications, grab rails, ramps, cleaning and industrial cleaning due to safety concerns or domestic cleaning. The current panel of contractors for property maintenance services will expire on the 30th of June, and this service agreement is in place with funding for the program until at least June 2024, with that funding being coming from dual sources of the Australian Federal Government and the Victorian State Government. The recommendation is that Council awards the contract to the panel of suppliers as listed in the attachment and authorises the Chief Executive Officer to sign and seal all relevant documents.
Thank you, Director Goonan. Are there any questions from the gallery? No? A mover, Councillor Grant, and Councillor Benton to second it. Councillor Grant, did you want to talk on the recommendation?
And just to say what an important service this is to the community, allowing people to stay in their homes for longer. Because, you know, while it is money that is allocated to that particular space, it means that ultimately we spend less money by not having people in institutions, and to have people living in their own homes is a much better outcome, not only for the community but obviously for the individual or individuals that are affected by this. So I think this is a fantastic thing. A lot of local governments have gone out of this space. The rural city of Wangaratta has stayed in this space, supporting its community in this way, and I think it's a really worthwhile thing. And I'm more to recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Agree with everything you said. Councillor Benton, did you want to talk? No? Did any other councillor want to talk on the recommendation? No? I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Marcus, Director Goonan, did you want to say who's on the panel?
Yes, I can. So the contractors are Jim's Mowing Wangaratta South, Jim's Mowing Wangaratta North. That should be a good Barney to see where that middle line is. The Bain Brady Trust, Chris Calvane, the Handy Gardener, and Bell's Home Maintenance.
Thank you, Director. I'll now look at 14.2, which is the Waste Service Policy to 2023.
This report is presented to Council to endorse, place the draft Waste Services Policy 2023 on public exhibition, seeking feedback from the community. There are several minor updates in this year's review, but there are no substantive changes, just clarifications to process and ensuring consistency in service delivery. Council are required to review the Waste Services Policy annually. The policy outlines what waste and resource recovery services are offered to the community by Council. Annual reviews ensure the policy reflects the service delivery standards. The recommendation is that Council endorse the draft Waste Services Policy for the public exhibition for 28 days, reviews and considers all submissions at a future Council meeting, and if no submissions are received or changes required, that adopts without further resolution.
Thank you, Director Goonan. There's no questions from the gallery on this one. I'll look for a mover. Councillor Bustle and Councillor Grant to second it. Councillor Bustle, did you need to talk on the recommendation? No? No? Would any other councillor like to talk on the recommendation? No? I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Thank you, Director Goonan. I'll now turn to items number 15 and 15.1. It's under Sustainability and Culture, and I'll look to Director Swart. 15.1 is the Tourism Events Grant Program. Thank you, Director Swart.
Thank you. Council's Tourism Events Grant Program provides financial assistance to event organisers supporting events that attract visitors to the rural city of Wangaratta. The program is delivered in 2 rounds, each of about $20,000 for each round, and this item covers round 1, which covers events running between July and December this year. Council received 2 applications with a total funding request of $6,000, and officers recommend that council award a total of $6,000 to those 2 events, and also authorizes the chief executive officer to utilize the remaining $14,000 to support any other tourism events taking place during that period from July to December this year.
Thank you, Director Sport. There's no questions from the gallery. I'll look for a mover. Councillor Bustle and Councillor Benton. Councillor Bustle, did you want to speak on that?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is one of the council's very, very good initiatives, I think. We have a lot of visitors come to Wangaratta, and particularly these 2 worthy events will bring a lot of people to Wangaratta. I'd also like to acknowledge the amount of work that our staff do in going through, letting people be aware of this grant. I think our staff do a wonderful, wonderful job with going through this. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor like to talk on the recommendation? No, I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. 15.2 is Arts Culture Advisory Committee appointments. Again, Director Swart.
Thank you. Council's Arts and Culture Advisory Committee currently has 9 vacancies for community representatives. After an expression of interest process, 8 applications were received from community members, and it's recommended that all 8 applications are appointed to the committee.
Thank you. I'll look to, if there's no questions from the gallery, I'll look to Councillor Fuller as the mover. Would you move the people's names, Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move this recommendation and note applicants Tim Dickinson for a 2-year term, Mark Bongers for a 3-year term, Margaret Brickle for a 3-year term, Bev Liscombe for a 2-year term, Paddy Milne, 2-year term, Fran O'Neill, 2-year term, Margaret Pullen for a 3-year term, and Rachel Valander for a 2-year term. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Would seconder, please? Councillor Grant. Councillor Fuller, did you need to talk on the recommendation?
Just to acknowledge and thank those that put in their applications. It's vital to have these people to be able to access their advice on topics relating to not only arts and culture but other council-based projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Grant, did you want to talk on the recommendation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And particularly now that the council is going through the development of the arts precinct, we've got a long way to go in terms of what we need to do and obviously to get support funding for this particular precinct. But I think we've got a very well-rounded committee, people from all walks of life and all different interests, which I think makes a huge difference in terms of the decisions that we make and the input that they give. And I really appreciate the fact that people have not only come before for the first time, but we've got people who have been on the committee for a long time and have elected to continue this support. So I think it's a terrific indication that we've got some really interesting community people in our community.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. There's any other comments from councillors? No? I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And that recommendation is carried. Thank you, Director Swart. We'll move through to advisory committees and minutes of committee meetings, and we'll go to 18.1. Is the minutes of advisory committee meetings, and it's on the 7th of March 2023. It was the Audit and Risk Committee. The council notes the minutes of these advisory committees. There's no questions from the gallery. I'll look for a mover. Councillor Fitzpatrick, and a seconder, Councillor Herry. Thank you. If there's no discussion on this, I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Ladies and gentlemen, we now, it's a very quick council meeting. We're coming to the end and we'll come to public question time. And I will firstly read a question and then a reason for a disallowed question. So I'll just note that we did receive at council here a question and petition relating to an alleged business conduct at a residential address in Wangaratta, which has been disallowed in accordance with clause 13.2A of council's governance rules, as it is objectionable in its nature. Council is investigating the matters and will work directly with the submitter to address these concerns raised. So thank you. I'll now move to another public question that I have here, and it's from a Miss Alison Winters from Lyne, Wangaratta. Her question will be, or is, will the rural city of Wangaratta councillors consider installing a new flagpole at the council building to fly the rainbow flag for the LGBTQIA+ days of significance? Thank you. I'll look to Director Goonan for an answer on this one. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for your question, Alison. We previously answered this question or a similar question at council meetings, and the resolution from the March 21 council meeting had several actions, including the development of an inclusive Wangaratta working group, which we are about to stand up. One of the roles of that working group has been tasked with through this resolution is to look at flying the flag on significant days, and that would include the installation of a new flagpole. Based on that resolution, council will await the outcomes of the working group and look forward to working with that group through this topic.
Thank you, Director. Now, are there any questions from the gallery? If so, can you please come forward, just state your name.
I don't have to turn the thing on, so you can go first.
Okay, thanks, Marie. Just press the little button with the man's speaking. You've done it. Good job. Now, if you just state your name for the public record so we know.
My name is Barbara Webster, and I'm with the Wodonga Dog Rescue, and I believe I spoke to Dean not long ago about the funding for dissecting the animals.
Yes.
I just want to know when it's going to happen.
Great.
And which vets we're going to go to.
We might be able to tell you that one, but we'll be able to tell you what response we have. I look to Director Sward for that and how we've worked some things into our budget. Thank you, Director. I'm not sure your microphone's working. You keep pushing it on.
Doesn't matter. Thank you for that question. Council's draft budget is out at the moment. It's available on our website, and as part of that draft budget, we did allow for an amount of money to help us deliver a low-cost desexing program next financial year. At the same time, we are aware that there's a grant funding program available at the moment through Animal Welfare Victoria, and we're looking into that as well.
Okay. Now, this section, is it ongoing, or is it only a certain amount of months that we can take the cats or dogs in, or how does it work?
Sure.
So just in response, so the first step for us is to put an amount of money in the draft budget so that we have money available next financial year to help us with this. The second step, once we confirm that, is to work out exactly how that program is going to work. So a lot of the detail will have to be worked out a little bit later. You mentioned the vets that's involved.
Yes.
That's the type of stuff that we'll work out a little bit later.
Yeah, because the Wangaratta ones are pretty expensive to go to.
Yes.
I've made already inquiries about that. So the cheapest one is Glenrowan. They're the cheapest vets to go to get your animals desexed. So.
Yeah. And we'll obviously be talking to all the vets at that time that we get the money approved in the budget for next year, and talk to them and say, and hopefully they can do a concession rate, plus we'll give them X amount of dollars through this budget submission to a certain amount. Is it going to be ongoing into the following years, etc., etc.? Well, that'll come back to council every year to discuss.
Because at the moment I've got 10 little kittens being dumped, and I'm the one who's had to bottle feed them. And now I'm looking maybe going to Melbourne to get them desexed, because the animal rescues are all chock-a-block full, they can't take them. So so now it's my responsibility. And I'm going to get them all desexed, and I'm the one who's gonna pay for it out of my own wage.
And that,
I don't get any help.
I think talking to you the other day, Barbara, we were talking about the fact that RSPCA don't pay for any of this stuff or a helping hand, etc. And if you dump them at the RSPCA, they're probably just going to end up in the ground.
That's it. Or at the moment, there's a surrendering fee with the RSPCA, you have to pay.
Oh, so if you take your pet,
If I find, yeah, if I
find a kitten on the side of the road that has no owner,
surrendering fee of $120.
yep, and that probably pays to get that
So they
pet
dump them
desexed.
all. Yep.
Yep.
So, all right, that's all I'm gonna know.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Marie, did you have a question as well?
Oh, yeah, what about the animals too? You have to talk from here.
Just makes it a bit more soundproof, but you don't have to just talk up to it, you can sit back and relax.
Yeah, about the animals too, I've got another, Amy Ledger. How come she had 14 people ready to work for it,
Mm-hmm.
and 11 down the garden path, and 3 times she's changed her mind, and that was going to be a very good small business then. I guarantee you're going to take your dog there. How come? Just tell her in the very beginning.
Well, we didn't know in the beginning. It has to go through a planning process, and it did go through that planning process and got to a point. And Amy can still go through with that permit if she wants to. I believe a permit may have been issued to Amy, and in relation to the boarding kettles, and then it's her decision whether she wants to operate it on or not operate it. It could be too expensive for her to set up, and that's the cost. That's not a planning issue. There's legislation we have to follow, and whether that's amenable to her or not, that's up to her.
So sad, it would have been a good business.
Would have been a great business, no problems, and it still can be. To remember that the permit runs with the land there, so someone else could go and operate that business if there was a permit there.
But you have all that other stuff, there's one building down there.
That's part of a planning process though.
No one will never goes any further ahead, I think you're all right.
It goes a fair way ahead, Marie, a long way ahead. And that's up to individuals whether they want to accept it and do their businesses that way.
If you're all involved, then I don't know.
Thank you though, thank you for the question. If there's nothing else, ladies and gentlemen, there's no other further questions from the gallery, I'll declare at about 6:30 that this meeting is now closed. So thank you for your attendance, and we look forward to seeing you back here for next month's council meeting. Remember, at the new time change. Have a good night. Thank you. Thank you.